The horror movie genre has quite a lot of sequels, but what are the best ones of all time? I'm going to tell you. I picked my top 5, and this was not easy to do because, like I said, there are about a million horror movie sequels. But these are my top 5, the ones that I think everybody should see. And in some cases, movies that I could even make the argument are better than the original. We're going to kick things off at number 5 with The Conjuring 2. The Conjuring series revolutionized horror in the last 20 years. The first movie is an excellent horror movie. After that, it was iffy, right? But I love The Conjuring 2 specifically because of the case it covers. The Enfield poltergeist case is absolutely terrifying. It's one of the most well-documented cases of paranormal activity ever. There are tons of conspiracy theories about what it was, what was going on in that house, but there's also a lot of evidence and things that you can't just necessarily brush away. And I love that the way this movie dealt with that. Like, they could have easily mailed in the second entry given how big the first one was, but they almost ramped it up a bit. It had some great characters, it had some pretty chilling moments. I loved the historical context. I loved the English, old countryside setting. Everything about that case fascinates me. And so I was absolutely in love with the fact that they brought it to the big screen and followed up The Conjuring with actually what I think is the best movie in the series in The Conjuring 2. Now, in the number 4 spot, I'm going to put Dr. Sleep. Probably not one you were thinking when you first think sequels, but it is a sequel to The Shining, and it is one of the best horror movie sequels ever. Mike Flanagan directs this, and it's a perfect follow-up to Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, and a really nice way to pay homage to both that movie and to Stephen King's original book, which is not as closely aligned to the movie. This is a hard thing for Mike Flanagan to do, but that's why he's a master of the craft. He had to contend with both the book and the movie, and the fact that Dr. Sleep was also a book. Like, you were working with the source material based off another source material that was handled a bit differently with the film source material that you're making a movie about. Yeah, it was a web of stuff. I don't know how he managed it, but it's really, really well done. It's very creepy. It has so many great callbacks to The Shining in the film. You see all those iconic moments, but they're presented in just a perfectly updated way that doesn't feel cheesy. It doesn't feel like a legacy sequel. It doesn't feel like fan service. He nailed Dr. Sleep. And I've read the book Dr. Sleep, and watching this movie, he was just the perfect person to take this on and created literally one of the most perfect horror movie sequels ever. Now, in the number 3 spot, I've got a third movie in a franchise. It is Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, Dream Warriors. And this is one, and I probably will make this argument for the next 2 films as well, that I think could be better than the original. And I love the original Nightmare on Elm Street. It's obviously, kickstarted this whole franchise. An iconic character was introduced. It has a ton of great moments. It's legendary for that reason. Hard to beat an original. But part 2 is not great. And when you get to part 3 in Dream Warriors, that I think is where Freddy established himself as an icon, because that movie showed you the true powers of Freddy Krueger, and it had a great cast, and it had a great 80s vibe, and it was, colorful and mysterious and brutal. Some of the most brutal deaths and dream sequences in the entire series, but just such a perfect little horror movie. Like, for some reason, it does feel like, and I'll talk about this again, like the second movie, which is why I give The Conjuring 2 so much credit, can often kind of fall flat. Like, even Halloween 2 compared to Halloween, I prefer Halloween 4 as a sequel. So it's really hard to come in and do the third movie in a series where the second one was kind of meh, but they brought back some legacy characters. They built this new storyline. It's an intriguing hook throughout the whole thing. Like, you get the stakes here. I just loved it, and it set up a really cool sequence, and it inspired a ton of things. Like, I don't think we get Stranger Things and Vecna and all of that without Dream Warriors and Nightmare on Elm Street, sorry. Like, it doesn't happen. Now, in the number 2 spot, I'm going to put, this is tough. I went back and forth between number 1 and number 2, but I'm going to put The Exorcist III, which is such an incredible movie on its own. Again, one that I could argue is as entertaining, if not more entertaining, than The Exorcist. And if it wasn't The Exorcist, which was such a groundbreaking, obviously incredible movie, and you put those head to head, I think there are a lot of people who would prefer Exorcist 3 in the way that that was constructed. It is very scary. It expands on the lore. It has great performances from Brad Dourif and George C. Scott, who is all in on this movie. Even though it's a horror movie sequel, He bought in. It's directed by William Peter Blatty, who wrote The Exorcist. He did not direct the original, William Friedkin did, but he now directs part 3, and it's based on his real sequel, like his version of the story. So some people view it as the true sequel to The Exorcist, which I think is totally fair. You can skip part 2, go right to part 3. And even watching the director's cut of this might be an even better choice because it has more of William Peter Blatty's original vision. But it's just iconic. It has one of the best jump scare moments in horror movie history, one of the most iconic, actually has several pretty iconic horror movie moments, absolutely award-winning level performances like Brad Dourif and George C. Scott playing off each other. Incredible to watch. So many callbacks to the original, ties into the original characters. You see that mythology start to build. You see the lore start to build. It feels like a good close to The Exorcist and where they probably could have stopped, but such a great religious, intense psychological horror film. But at number 1, I went back and forth. And you might see behind me why I picked this one. I think it's my favorite slasher movie of all time. It's one of my top 5 favorite horror movies, and I think it is the best horror movie sequel, and that is Friday the 13th, Part 4, The Final Chapter, which I do think is the best film in the entire series. Again, as iconic as the original is and what it created, it is not the Friday the 13th you think of because everyone thinks of Jason, and Jason's not in that movie. Well, he is, but only as a kid. We don't get the masked Jason until part 3. Part 2, he's wearing a bag over his head. And part 4, to me, is the most purely perfect slasher movie ever. It's cabin in the woods. It's teenagers doing dumb stuff. You've got the mythology. You've got the lore. You've got Jason at his absolute peak. I always compare, like, this Jason is like Darth Vader at the end of Rogue One, just ripping through things, busting through doors. He is a maniac, and I love to see that. That's why I loved some of the later Halloween movies where Michael Myers really gets let loose, like in Halloween Kills. So one of the absolute best Jason performances, an incredible mask, an incredible moment, and incredible cast. Corey Feldman's in this, has that weird kind of ending where you're like not sure exactly what's going to happen next. It teases what's next in the series, and although those do kind of fall off in quality, there's just something about part 4, the final chapter. It felt like a final chapter. It felt like a culmination of the previous 3 movies where we finally got that peak movie that those other 3 were building to. I love it so much. That bust back there, the Jason bust, is a final chapter bust with the final chapter mask. I have the soundtrack. I hope it gets a 4K release someday because it really deserves it right now. I've still got my Scream Factory Blu-ray set, but man, it's just such a perfect slasher movie. It is, when you think 1980s slasher in everything that came out in that decade, I think the final chapter. And I think everything else that came out was either inspired by the final chapter afterwards or was building up to the final chapter being this peak moment in slasher movie history. So those are my picks. Controversial, I know. I could have thrown in some honorable mentions to things like Halloween 2018, which I do love, or Halloween 3, which if it wasn't called Halloween 3 would probably be one of the better Halloween-focused horror movies ever made. I don't know. You could throw in a lot of stuff. The Evil Dead 2, or even like the Evil Dead remakes, if you wanted to go there. Evil Dead Rise. There's some really great stuff. There's some fun Paranormal Activity movies. Paranormal Activity 3 is pretty damn good as a found footage film. There's a lot of stuff out there that could have been on this list, but those are my top 5, and I'm sticking with it. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know if you want more videos like this where I just kind of talk movies, because I do love to talk movies. That's what I do a lot of now on Instagram and TikTok, is just talk about movies I love, give recommendations, give my analysis. It's a lot of fun to mix that in with some of the physical media talk. So if you're enjoying this, let me know in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed if you're new here and never seen my videos before. I'd love to have you. And of course, make sure to follow me on all my other social media apps and check out my new book, Lost in the Stream, which is available to buy everywhere right now. So thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. Gave you some new things to add to your watch list this spooky season. But otherwise, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Stay safe and stay healthy out there, and I will talk to you soon.